Hello everyone. Today the topic which we guys gonna study is adrenal insufficiency. Adrenal insufficiency is a loss of adrenal function. By the loss of adrenal function, we mean that the loss of adrenocortical hormone. The adrenal cortex consists of three layers: the outer glomerulosa, middle fasciculata, and the inner reticularis. The glomerulosa produce a mineralocorticoid such as aldosterone, the fasciculata produce glucocorticoids such as a cortisol, and the reticularis produce androgen. The primary androgen produced by the reticularis is dihydroepiandrosterone. When there is a deficiency of one or all of these hormones, it is called as adrenal insufficiency. This adrenal insufficiency is divided into two types: primary adrenal insufficiency and the central adrenal insufficiency. The primary adrenal insufficiency is also called as Addison disease. It means when there is a pathology in adrenal gland, mean when there is a destruction of adrenal gland and it lead to adrenal insufficiency, it is called as primary adrenal insufficiency. In primary adrenal insufficiency, there is a loss of cortisol, aldosterone, and androgen. Mean that all the three layers of adrenal cortex are destroyed. So all the three hormone which is produced by adrenal cortex will be deficient in primary adrenal insufficiency. The second one is central adrenal insufficiency. The central adrenal insufficiency mean that there is adrenal insufficiency, but it is not due to pathology in adrenal gland. It means that there is a problem something above the adrenal gland. So what is above the adrenal gland which produce the adrenal cortical hormone? It is hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. So for that reason it is further divided into two types: secondary adrenal insufficiency and the tertiary adrenal insufficiency. The secondary adrenal insufficiency means that the pathology occur in anterior pituitary and there is a loss of ACTH. And the tertiary adrenal insufficiency means that there is a loss of CRH, means that the primary pathology is in hypothalamus. Remember that in central adrenal insufficiency, there is a loss of cortisol only, because the higher system such as the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary only control the cortisol level. So there is only loss of cortisol in central adrenal insufficiency. The aldosterone and the androgen level will not be affected in central adrenal insufficiency. Now firstly we will study primary adrenal insufficiency and later on we will study central adrenal insufficiency. But before going into the detail of it, let's study what will be the clinical feature of decreased adrenal cortical hormone. In adrenal cortical hormone, when there is a deficiency of a glucocorticoid, the patient will present with fatigue, weight loss, gastrointestinal symptoms such as nausea, vomiting or abdominal pain. Apart from that, the patient also suffer from hypotension because the cortisol maintain the vascular tone. So when there is a decreased level of glucocorticoid, the patient will suffer from a hypotension. Apart from that, the patient also suffer from a muscle and joint pain and hyponatremia, because when there is a decreased level of a cortisol, there will be a increased level of ADH. So more water will be absorbed, which will lead to hyponatremia. Now come toward the deficiency of the mineralocorticoid. When there is a deficiency of the mineralocorticoid, the patient will present with hypovolemia, hyponatremia, hyperkalemia and metabolic acidosis. Why these effects occur? These effects occur due to the deficiency of hormone aldosterone, mean mineralocorticoid. What aldosterone do? The aldosterone is released from the adrenal cortex and it will act on the collecting part of a renal tubule. In the renal tubule, in the collecting part, it will absorb sodium. When it absorbs sodium, so there it will also absorb water with it. And apart from this, it also increase the excretion of potassium and hydrogen. So when there is a decreased level of aldosterone, these effect will be lost and the patient will, and the opposite of the effect of aldosterone will happen, such as hypovolemia, hyponatremia, hyperkalemia and metabolic acidosis. Now come toward the last adrenal cortical hormone, androgen. So what will be the clinical feature of decreased production of androgen? Remember that in male, the decreased production of androgen from the adrenal cortex have little or no effect. because in male the androgen is mostly produced from a testis. So when there is a deficiency of androgen from the adrenal gland, there will be little or no effect on male. But in female it causes some effect such as a decreased pubic and axillary hair, because female depend on adrenal cortex for the production of androgen, which lead to the axillary and pubic hair growth. Now let's begin with Addison's disease. The Addison disease is a primary adrenal insufficiency, means the cause of insufficiency lie in the adrenal gland. The patient of Addison's disease present with a classical triad of weakness or emaciation, hyperpigmentation and hypotension. The weakness or emaciation is due to decreased level of a cortisol. The hyperpigmentation is due to increased level of ACTH, and the hypotension is due to decreased level of mineralocorticoids such as aldosterone. Why this hyperpigmentation occur in Addison's disease? It is a very important concept. The hyperpigmentation occur due to increased level of ACTH. Remember that the adrenal cortical hormone are controlled by hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The hypothalamus will produce CRH. The CRH will act on anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary will release ACTH, which will act on adrenal gland, and it will release cortisol. So when there is a deficiency of adrenal gland such as a cortisol, so there will be an overproduction of ACTH. Why this ACTH cause hyperpigmentation? Because the ACTH and the melanocyte stimulating hormone MSH arise from same precursor called as pro-opiomelanocortin. So when the ACTH level increases, it will increase the level of MSH, which will cause hyperpigmentation. Apart from these three classical triad, the Addison disease can also cause gastroenteritis, salt craving, which occurs secondary to hyponatremia, and the vitiligo. The vitiligo occur in autoimmune Addison disease, and it occur in about 10 to 20% of cases. Now come toward the causes of Addison disease. The Addison disease is caused by a variety of causes, such as autoimmune, called as autoimmune adrenalitis, due to infection, called as infectious adrenalitis, due to hemorrhagic infarction and metastatic cancer. We can suspect a patient can have a autoimmune adrenalitis when a patient have some other autoimmune condition. The infectious adrenalitis is associated with HIV and tuberculosis infection, and the disseminated fungal infection. By the hemorrhagic infarction mean that when a patient suffer from meningococcal septicemia, there will be a bilateral destruction of adrenal gland. This is also called as Waterhouse-Friderichsen syndrome. So it causes Addison disease. Some metastatic cancer also lead to Addison disease. Now come toward the diagnosis of Addison disease, that how we will diagnose Addison disease. For that we perform various tests. The first one is a morning cortisol. Remember that the cortisol level is high in the morning and it is at low concentration at night. So in diagnosis of Addison disease, we perform a cortisol level in the morning. So when the cortisol level is decreased in the morning, so it can suggest Addison disease. But remember that the random cortisol level are of no use, because the cortisol level vary during daytime. So it is the random cortisol level have no clinical significance. But if the random cortisol level is decreased to such extent that it is less than 100 nanomole per liter, it can suggest Addison disease. Or it can rise to that level which is such as greater than 500 nanomole per liter, it can exclude Addison disease. But remember that this is just a speculation. The random cortisol level have no importance in diagnosis of Addison disease. For that we measure morning cortisol level. After that, the second test is to measure the plasma ACTH level. When there is a decreased level of a cortisol but increased level of ACTH, it suggests a primary adrenal insufficiency or Addison disease. And when there is a decreased cortisol, along with that there is a decreased ACTH, it can suggest a central adrenal insufficiency. But these two tests take time. So to make a rapid diagnosis, we perform a concentropin stimulation test. How this test is performed? Let's discuss it. The concentropin stimulation test is used for the diagnosis of primary or secondary adrenal insufficiency, and for the assessment of HPA axis in a patient who is taking suppressive glucocorticoid therapy. So what we do in concentropin stimulation test, we inject concentropin, which is a synthetic ACTH, in a standard dose of about 250 microgram, and after injecting it we measure the serum cortisol after 30 minutes. When after 30 minutes the serum cortisol level rises, mean that it rises more than 18 microgram, it will suggest that the patient have no primary adrenal insufficiency, mean that the patient have no Addison disease, the patient have some central adrenal insufficiency, because when we inject the synthetic ACTH, it work as a ACTH and stimulate the adrenal gland and rise the cortisol level. But when the concentropin fail to rise the level of a cortisol, it will suggest that the patient is suffering from Addison disease. One more concept which I like to explain in context with concentropin stimulation test is that when a patient is on exogenous glucocorticoid, this exogenous glucocorticoid interfere with the HPA axis, so it will stop the normal production of a cortisol. So when we, in that case, when we give a concentropin, the concentropin will act on adrenal gland, but due to the exogenous glucocorticoid, the adrenal gland undergo atrophy, so there will be no production of ACTH. So always remember this cause, that it can also interfere with the result in concentropin stimulation test. So with the help of these three tests, we are able to diagnose that a patient is suffering from Addison disease. Now let's shift our gaze toward the determining the cause of Addison disease. For that, the first step is to take a proper history and examination, because sometime from history and examination the cause of Addison disease is very prominent, such as if the patient is suffering from tuberculosis, HIV or the meningococcemia, we can suggest that the patient is suffering from Addison disease. Apart from that, we can perform an autoantibody against 21 hydroxylase enzyme. It occurs in autoimmune adrenalitis. And the third test which can lead toward the diagnosis or the cause of Addison disease is CT abdomen. It can rule out infection, hemorrhage or malignancy. And the last step which is important for determining the cause of Addison disease is CT directed fine needle aspiration. With the help of this, we can rule out infection and malignancy which can cause Addison disease. Now come toward the treatment of Addison disease. The treatment of Addison disease is the replacement of deficient hormone, such as the glucocorticoid is replaced with hydrocortisone, the mineralocorticoid is replaced with the fludrocortisone, and the androgen is replaced with dihydroepiandrosterone. Replacement of a glucocorticoid with the hydrocortisone is adjusted according to the natural production of a cortisol, such as the 15 mg of hydrocortisone is given in the morning after waking, and the 5 mg is given in afternoon at 6 pm. The fludrocortisone, which will replace a mineralocorticoid, is given in a dose of about 0.05 to 0.5 mg daily, and the androgen is replaced with the dihydroepiandrosterone in a dose of about 50 mg per day, but it should be given in female. In male, there is no need to replace or give an androgen, because in male the androgen is produced by testis. Apart from the hormone replacement therapy, the patient should be instructed with some general advices. The first one is that the patient should carry a bracelet and steroid card. So if a patient have some health issues and the patient present to a hospital, the doctor should be aware of the patient condition, and according to the steroid and the disease, the other disease should be managed. Apart from that, the patient should have a good nutrition, regular meal, high carbohydrate and sufficient salt. Other than this, the patient should keep the ampule of a hydrocortisone at home, so the patient can self-medicate himself. Apart from that, there should be increased steroid dose for the intercurrent illness. So when a patient has some illness, we should double the dose of offered steroid, so it will prevent the adrenal crisis. It was all about the primary adrenal insufficiency or the Addison disease. Now we will shift our gaze toward the central adrenal insufficiency. The central adrenal insufficiency means that the cause of adrenal insufficiency is due to pathology in pituitary gland or in hypothalamus. The most common cause of central adrenal insufficiency is decreased ACTH secondary to chronic glucocorticoid therapy. Meanwhile, the patient is on chronic glucocorticoid therapy for some other disease, the patient will develop a central adrenal insufficiency. In central adrenal insufficiency, there is a decreased ACTH, decreased CRH, and the decreased cortisol. Remember one important point, because this most commonly appear in exam, is that the most common cause of adrenal insufficiency is central adrenal insufficiency due to decreased ACTH secondary to chronic glucocorticoid. And the most common cause of Addison disease is, in developing world it is a TB, and in developed world it is an autoimmune disease. What will be the clinical feature of central adrenal insufficiency? Remember that in central adrenal insufficiency there is a loss of cortisol only. The mineralocorticoid and the androgen function will remain intact, and the patient will present with a weakness, fatigue, muscle and joint pain, and less prominently there will be a less prominent hypotension and hyponatremia, and there will be no skin hyperpigmentation, because as I discussed previously that the hyperpigmentation is due to overstimulation of ACTH producing cell. So in central adrenal insufficiency there is decreased production of ACTH, so there will be no skin hyperpigmentation. To evaluate the central adrenal insufficiency, the first test which we should perform is MRI of a head, and after that we can also perform the CRH stimulating test. The CRH stimulating test will differentiate secondary from tertiary adrenal insufficiency. When there is a no cortisol rise after CRH, there will be a pituitary failure, and if there is a cortisol rise after CRH, so there will be a hypothalamic failure, mean that the CRH are not producing. So when we give a synthetic CRH, it will increase the production of a cortisol, and to treat the central adrenal insufficiency we give glucocorticoid only, because in central adrenal insufficiency there is a deficiency of cortisol only. It was all about the adrenal insufficiency. Now I will just summarize the workup for adrenal insufficiency, so it will sum up everything which we have discussed up till now. Patient present with the clinical feature of adrenal insufficiency. The first step is to perform the morning plasma ACTH and the cortisol. When there is a low cortisol but high ACTH, the patient is suffering from a primary adrenal insufficiency, and to evaluate the primary adrenal insufficiency we perform 21-hydroxylase autoantibody test, CT abdomen and FNA. And when a patient have a low cortisol and the low ACTH, so the patient is suffering from a central adrenal insufficiency, and to evaluate the central adrenal insufficiency we perform MRI of a head and CRH stimulating test, which will differentiate secondary from tertiary adrenal insufficiency. And if the patient have a normal cortisol level and a normal ACTH level, we should consider other diagnosis. So it was all about the adrenal insufficiency. If there is still any question, you guys can ask. In the next lecture we will study about the adrenal crisis, which is an important acute manifestation of adrenal insufficiency.